Hundreds marching through the streets at our state capitol tonight. Celebrations and protests. Rallying cries heard nationwide. A raw reaction to the Supreme Court's decision, striking down Roe v. Wade, reversing the right to abortion, putting the burden back on the states.
And end abortion.
This decision! Illegitimate! This decision! Illegitimate! This decision! Illegitimate!
I was crying tears of joy when I found out. This has been by far the best week of my life.
I cry a lot because it's not good decision.
This is going to be like history. This is just the beginning of, the pro-life generation.
It's terrifying. And if they're going to do this again, what's next?
And we're happy. It's a happy day for mothers and their babies.
I just put my face in my hands and cried. It's just cruel and unprecedented.
A decision among 9 justices sending shockwaves among millions of Americans. Good evening, I'm Chad Silber. Today, the Supreme Court voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, the 1970s case that protected abortion rights nationwide. Now it's up to each state to decide what to do next. Tonight, we're breaking down what happened, what it all means, and what happens next. We'll dig into all three as our country and state process the landmark decision. Let's start with what happened. A closer look at today's Supreme Court opinion. 5 of the High Court's 9 justices issued the majority opinion, a direct response to a 2018 Mississippi law banning abortions after 15 weeks. Today's opinion goes a step further, overturning Roe v. Wade. The court's 3 newest members, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, voted alongside Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. Alito wrote the 108-page opinion. He writes, "The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected by any Constitution provision." Alito goes on saying he considers abortion separate from other rights protected by the 14th Amendment, like intimate sexual relations, contraception, and marriage, writing, "Abortion is fundamentally different because it destroys fetal life and does not protect liberty." There's been intense reaction on both sides of this issue today, those who support the decision and those who don't. People have been overcome with emotion no matter which side they're on.
Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world.
People deny that it's a baby. It is a baby. And it's how you started. It's how I started. We think that life is sacred and that life starts at the beginning, at conception. So we would like to see abortion illegal in North Carolina. However, we have to educate people and change their hearts and minds.
This decision must not stand. Legal abortion on demand. Legal abortion on demand. This decision must not stand. This decision must not stand.
This should not be political at all. This should have never been political. We've managed to let 5 people make a decision for our nation for the rest of their lives. And that's not right. The majority of people do not want to see Roe overturned. The access should be there. And that's the part where we're scratching our head about.
Federal and state lawmakers all shared their take on the justice's decision. Republicans calling it a victory, Democrats calling it an outrage.
The poor women are going to be hit the hardest. It's cruel. In fact, the court laid out state laws criminalizing abortion that go back to the 1800s as rationale. The court literally taking America back 150 years. This is a sad day for the country, in my view.
The people have won a victory. The right to life has been vindicated. The voiceless will finally have a voice. This great nation can now live up to its core principle that all are created equal, not born equal, created equal.
We've got to feel a sense of urgency, understanding what we all experienced before Roe was decided, understanding that women's lives will be put at risk, that women will take the risk, unfortunately, to get abortions when they need them.
And that was Sherry Beasley, who will face Republican Representative Ted Budd in the Senate race this fall. Budd declined to speak with us on camera today and sent a statement instead. It reads in part, "This is a victory for the millions of Americans who believe that every life is precious and deserves protection, and it's a victory for the millions of unborn children who may now realize the most fundamental of human rights, the right to life." Republican Senator Tom Tillis said this ruling is historic and monumental and affirms my belief that all life is sacred. Democrat Congresswoman Kathy Manning wrote, "Today's devastating Supreme Court opinion will set our society back generations." Governor Roy Cooper said, "I will continue to trust women to make their own medical decisions as we fight to keep politicians out of the doctor's exam room." Let's shift now to what this decision means. Remember, it's now up to the states to decide whether to protect abortion rights. All these states shaded in green will keep those rights on the books. They include California, New York, and Colorado, and Illinois. Far more states have what are called trigger laws. States like Tennessee, Texas, and Mississippi have bills set to ban abortion almost immediately. You will notice North Carolina doesn't fall into either category. Abortion is still legal in our state. The Kaiser Family Foundation reports more than 28,000 legal abortions occurred here in 2019. The Health Department reports more than 90% of them were at 12 weeks or earlier. There are few restrictions in our state. Among them, women must wait 72 hours before the procedure can take place. There's a bit of gray area on when you can get an abortion here. Our state approved a 20-week ban in the past, but a 2019 court decision made it unenforceable. That decision cited Roe v. Wade. It would be up to Democratic Attorney General Josh Stein to reactivate that law. Republican state lawmakers Tim Moore and Phil Berger called on Stein to make it happen. They wrote in a letter, "We respectfully call on you and the Department of Justice to take all necessary legal action to lift the injunction barring our state's abortion restrictions." Stein didn't immediately respond, but he offered some analysis, saying the impact of that case will need to be determined. Abortions prior to 20 weeks will remain legal. WFMY News 2's Grace Holland dug into this and some of your questions about the implications of this decision. Grace, how often does our state see abortions after that 20-week mark?
The state tracks the number of abortions in our state, Chad. Less than 10% of them in 2019 were after 20 weeks gestation. I took some of your other top questions to local experts.
First question, what does abortion look like in North Carolina? 9 counties in the state have abortion clinics, including Guilford and Forsyth. NCDHHS reports about half are surgical and the other half are with a pill. Planned Parenthood says in our state you cannot get those pills through telehealth.
The number of pills you take do depend on where you are at in your pregnancy and gestational weeks. The first pill you take at one of our health centers with a medical provider, and then you can take the rest of them at home.
Our state borders several others which could ban abortion. So the next question is, will people from out of state seek abortions in North Carolina? The Kaiser Family Foundation says 18% of the people who got abortions in North Carolina came from somewhere else. A Greensboro clinic says patients came here even with Roe in place due to abortion restrictions in other states.
We've seen several patients from Texas even come in that, were found out they were pregnant right at 6 weeks, and they've had to come to one of our North Carolina clinics to be seen.
Healthcare experts expect that to increase, which could impact care.
Challenging the capacity and the limitations for these clinics that support these type of services for these patients. So it will definitely impact the access to service, possibly to our patients in our state, as well as others seeking that type of health care.
Roe versus Wade was long considered a settled constitutional right among political and legal experts. So what does overturning it mean for other rights? Roe was one of several cases tied to the 14th Amendment, which protects a right to privacy. Justice Samuel Alito says a right must be deeply rooted in this nation's history and tradition, and that abortion was illegal in most states at the time the 14th Amendment was adopted. Some believe the court could overturn other rights with this argument.
If the court is willing to overturn its own precedent on this particular issue, we have to be cognizant that the courts probably is open to overturning other precedents.
Which brings us to our last question. What does this mean for future Supreme Court challenges? Constitutional experts believe other rights could face challenges. Justice Clarence Thomas wrote in his opinion that the court should reconsider cases like same-sex marriage and contraceptives.
Decisions will oftentimes signal where the litigation should go. And that's part of the point of Justice Thomas's concurrence. He's signaling, okay, let's start challenging these.
But that does not mean the court would overturn those decisions. Alito denies that in his opinion, writing that protected rights like intimate sexual relations, contraceptive, and gay marriage are fundamentally different from abortion because it destroys fetal life and does not protect liberty. Chief Justice John Roberts also noted in his own opinion that while he agreed with upholding the Mississippi abortion ban at the center of this case, he would not have overturned Roe v. Wade.
Grace, thank you. So the big question now, what happens next? Abortion is legal in our state. State lawmakers can either permanently ingrain that right into state law or they can ban it. Well, right now, neither is likely to happen. This is the current makeup of our state legislature. Republicans have the majority in both chambers, so making abortion rights permanent isn't in the cards. But this makeup also isn't enough to ban abortions. Republicans need a supermajority to override a governor veto. They'd need the legislature to look more like this. It's only a small difference. There are just 3 Senate seats and 4 House seats shy. Even then, experts say it might not be enough.
I gotta think, even if they get to the supermajority, that they may not, it may not be enough. There might be a few who say, okay, we'll support some of this, we'll support some limits, but we're not going to go as far as some of these other states.
A few seats can make all the difference. That's why this year's election and future elections are so important for both sides.